Those who follow our page must be aware of this information and other information. It is in that context I share things. In this series of videos or in this series of parts within a single video, we will be looking at electoral bond scheme. However, after reading the Supreme Court's verdict which was delivered on 15th February 2024, I would like to call this scheme as unlimited corporate secret within bracket could be private to union government closing the bracket electoral bond scheme, or in simple words, unlimited corporate secret electoral bond scheme. So why we are discussing it today? Because today we have received a news that State Bank of India has requested Supreme Court to extend the time frame from March 6, 2024 to June 30 so as to hand over the details related to whoever have purchased the electoral bonds and the contribution that went to political parties. These details it was asked to share by March 6 to Election Commission of India so that Election Commission of India can give it to us, voters, public, on March 13, 2024. However, this deadline is now requested by SBI to be moved to June 30. Election is on the way. Now in part 2 with respect to unlimited corporate secret could be private to union government electoral bond scheme, here we are going to talk about why we should be concerned about it. Let me give you an example. Now take farmers. At the level of states and at the union government level, they have several demands. Now what if there is a contract farming company which has interest against the small and marginal farmers? Now, if we get this information which has been so far mentioned as secret, now Supreme Court said, give this information to the public. SBI has been asked to give this information to Election Commission of India by March 6, and Election Commission of India should publish this information by March 13. And if we find out that a contract farming company has given this much crore through electoral bond scheme to a political party or to multiple parties, and if that particular appropriate government has brought up some policy against the interest of small and marginal farmers, what do we understand? We understand that this particular party or these parties have acted against the interest of farmers. These kind of informed decision that we can take, since the secret scheme is violating that is one of the grounds why Supreme Court called the electoral bond scheme as unconstitutional. We are discussing about the secret electoral bond scheme, and we know that recently Supreme Court on 15th February 2024 has struck down the scheme and has asked the State Bank of India to furnish details related to the scheme to the Election Commission of India by March 6th, and that Election Commission of India to display those details in public domain so that voters can use and take informed decision, and that should be done by March 13. And it is here we are now getting news that State Bank of India has asked the Supreme Court to delay, to give them more window period to share details to Election Commission of India. They request June 30. Now we know that this is an election year, very important election to the House of the People of Parliament of India. And what I am saying is, if we are going to delay this process, delay the election as well, because only if this information is provided to the people can make informed decision about the parties to which they have to vote. We are mother of democracy. On the other hand, we are discussing about conducting elections to state legislature and national legislature at the same time, which is called as simultaneous elections. We should give room for people to decide about all these contributions, the informed decision making that the Supreme Court stated in the verdict of February 15. Part 4, we are talking about secret electoral bond scheme. In this part, we will be discussing about what has been stated by Election Commission of India and Reserve Bank of India, the banking regulator, to the union government with respect to the secrecy and other aspects of the scheme. Now, in a letter given to Union Government on 26th May 2017, the Election Commission of India, the constitutional body, has stated with respect to secrecy that such a scheme would have serious impact on the transparency of political finance or funding of political parties. It has also stated that donations through electoral bonds were not required to be disclosed. Having that provision is a retrograde step towards transparency of elections. This we can get from the Supreme Court's verdict on February 15, 2024. And RBI, in its response, although has objected to the scheme at one point, has given points in such a way that let RBI do this scheme, not any other bank. However, despite this scheme, the implementer, the task of implementation has been not given to banking regulator RBI, rather to the State Bank of India. We will come again how this might impact. Stay tuned for the next part. This is part 5. And here we are going to talk about the questions that have arisen, that are being discussed or commented upon with respect to the action of SBI seeking more time until June 30 to furnish information related to the scheme as ordered by Supreme Court on 15th February 2024, originally to be provided to Election Commission on March 6. Now they are seeking time until June 30. We know that election to House of People of Parliament of India could complete by May, and if these details are not provided to the citizens, how will they be able to make informed decision with respect to voting? So now there are various questions to SBI. People are thinking, if the scheme implementation, if was given to RBI, would RBI might have already given these details to Election Commission, or by March 6 it would give. It would never ever sought time under Supreme Court of India. This is one question. Number 2, is SBI, these are all doubts. Is SBI acting on behalf of some political party to seek time, right, so that elections may be over? Is this request of SBI itself is, to avoid backlash of some parties or some party? So there are many more questions in this regard. Stay tuned to next part. This is part 6. So in the previous part, we discussed about some of the questions, with respect to the recent request of SBI to delay providing information to Election Commission, give time until June 30. So by the time election would be over. So therefore some doubts are asked. Is SBI's request is, to give or to save? If these details are given right now itself, people can analyze and make an informed decision. Is it to avoid that SBI is seeking time? So these are doubts that are raised by the people. And so in this video, we are going to discuss, by getting all this information as ordered by the Supreme Court, what are some of the things that we could understand or get clarity on? Say, for example, union government and state government, they give a lot of tenders. They associate with themselves a lot of private companies. So we can understand the contribution, if we can get the details of private companies, how much contribution has gone to political parties, we can see these connections. Have they got any tender, any evaluation duty or something? So these links could be understood. Number 2, we should also see, has there any contribution been made by public sector undertaking companies? And number 3, we should also see whether any loss-making companies have made these contributions to political parties. So all these must be unearthed, analyzed. If happened, we will get a good idea. Stay tuned. This is the final part. In the previous thing, we discussed, if we analyze the information which should be provided as per the order of the Supreme Court, what could be unearthed if happened. So one more thing is that, we should also see how many shell companies have did money laundering and have contributed money under the electoral bond scheme. Has money laundering taken place? In fact, in a letter to the Union Government on 27 September 2017, RBI has cautioned the government that such a scheme may not only be seen as facilitating money laundering, but also could be projected as, within bracket, albeit wrongly, enabling money laundering, right? So now with this, so therefore all the stakeholders, citizens, voters, researchers, educationists, teachers, even children, the future voters should look at the intricacies involved in this unlimited corporate secret electoral bond scheme, and media should also, translate the landmark verdict in the regional tongue and should live telecast it so that people make informed decision making as voters in the election. Thank you very much.